I was a teacher for a day. Here's how that went. As much as I would clickbait y'all with something like this, that is not what I decided to teach on. It didn't even come across my mind to do something stupid and funny like that. No, I decided on Pokemon cards. I was about to change it to something more serious, but decided not to. I'll show that one after the Pokemon one though. One day in our English 2 class, we had an assignment to be a teacher for a day and teach on whatever subject we want. It was a group project, so it was a little hard on deciding what we wanted to do. I'm sorry, Jacob, for not doing Minecraft. I probably would have preferred that. What makes cards have value? By Newt Lund and Jacob Manassa, who is not here to record this video with me. Although, to be fair, I never asked him to. Supply and demand. Guess which one of these has more value? I'll wait. Oh, the answer. Okay. Yeah, anyways, it's prismatic. I'm pretty sure that's obvious to really anybody watching this video, but it was not obvious in class. Most people in class did not get that. Most people ended up thinking Shrouded Fable was more expensive. The box does look better, I'll say that, but I don't know. Kind of wish Petron was on the box. I love Petron. Why though? They're both specialty sets and have the same number of prints and packs inside, but it's what's inside the set. That sounds like a motivational speech. What am I doing? Prismatic has horrible pull rates, and the more sought after cards catch really high prices. Like the Umbreon, for example. How about you guess the price on this one? Oh, well, you can't. It's $1,000. And then the most expensive out of Shrouded Fable is that. $50 Persian. And to be honest, I'm highly convinced that the card is cheaper now. Also, I don't think it's the most expensive anymore. The other cards also have value, making this a really strong set for hype and people wanting it more than how much products is out there. These are a bunch of the other SIRs that I'm pretty sure you guys know of. More recently, January of 2025, the Pokemon card market exploded in popularity. Why? Because of Pokemon Pocket. Pokemon Pocket is a new mobile game version of the original card game and sparked new interest in Pokemon and the physical cards. Prismatic Evolutions was the first set to come out after Pocket's release, resulting in a crazy hype train that went out of control. And fights started over new product release, and people would hoard items to resell at triple the price online. What makes a card expensive? A lot of hype usually, whether it's a new thing for an era, but most recently, the artwork and how popular the Pokemon on the card is. Before this, it was other things like rainbow rares and full arts. By the way, I made this before even Black Bolt and White Flare was like announced. So I did not know of the black-white rares. So when you see me putting this here, I was putting it over the fact that full arts were a new thing. These are 3 of the most expensive SIRs. Some people do not understand the prices of these and claim to dislike the Terra Crowns. But here they are being some of the most expensive and sought after cards in the hobby. There are some other cards that got hyped up after Pocket's release, such as Mew. A lot of people claim this is the best card in the set, but the Charizard was always more expensive than it. Until Pocket's release, this card skyrocketed. This was before it blasted up again. It went up to like 700 later. Now it's down to like 500. Print quality and pull rates. Another factor that affects the price of a card is condition. Japan and English have completely separate set print runs, and Japan has higher print quality, making English much more expensive because they are notoriously known for the bad quality control, which affects the price of the best conditioned cards. Aside from this is also the pull rates. Japanese cards are much more accessible, and you have a set number of guaranteed cards to get out of boxes, while English does not. Pull rates mean how often you get a good card out of a pack. Japan mainly does booster boxes of 30 packs, which has repeatable pull rates all throughout, while English product has all sorts of different products like single packs up to booster boxes of 36 packs, which are the closest to guaranteed odds. Based on the condition of the card, different companies will grade your cards, which is just concealing your cards in a hard plastic case that protects and defines the card. These can go upwards of double the value the card goes for ungraded or raw. With older or vintage cards, these grades can increase the price by a lot due to the cards being so old and not much being preserved. Some of the most trusted grading companies are PSA, Beckett, and CGC. The most trusted is Beckett, as they do subgrades and grade very harshly. Black Label 10s are basically perfect, pristine condition cards. Gold Label 10 is the same, except all the subgrades aren't 10s like Black Labels, and everything before that are silver. The prices of these cards can be crazy high, based on how many exist, what the print quality is like, or what the card is. Another trusted grading company is PSA. They don't grade too rough and are trusted for their sports cards grading mostly. A lot of people receive grades and complain that they aren't correct and decide to crack them out of the slab and resubmit it for a better grade, which always ends up better because of how bad their grading is. No one understands why are they still trusted at this point. $580 raw and $1,400 PSA 10. And then there's CGC, which have been caught for grading fake cards on multiple occasions, but are still trusted enough for whatever reason. You can tell I have bias here. There's also Tag, a newer grading service that grades using AI and have pretty cool looking slabs, but they are very fragile and easy to crack with just your thumb. Alternate full arts. These were introduced in the Sun and Moon era with Team Up featuring tag team Pokemon cards, all illustrated by Mitsuhiro Arita. They gave other artists a chance and introduced a secondary version of the cards with full art texturing that aren't just 3D models with no background. So that's the Mitsuhiro Arita. That's the full art, and then that's the alternate art. Rainbows were before this, and were much more sought after at the time. But that switched around in the Sword and Shield era. Halfway into the Sword and Shield era, alternate arts came back. This time, not teamed up with Pokemon, so way less potential for art, but still usually beautiful and expensive. Special illustration range. In the Scarlet and Violet era, SIRs were introduced, basically just a more formal and official name given to alt arts. There were Stellar Terrestrial, and just regular Pokemon, but now also owners Pokemon. Illustration rares. There have also been not textured full arts of usually non-ultra rare and basic Pokemon with just hollow foil known as IRs. I was about to end the slide just like this originally, but then I decided that adding a conclusion would make much more sense. Pokemon cards are rated upon their condition, artwork, character, and many other factors. More recently, people have seen this hobby as a money-making opportunity and bought everything out, as it is now impossible to obtain. 1 year later, and it's more or less the same. There were moments where everyone was talking and being disruptive, so I decided to yell at them like a drill sergeant. Like this. Okay, I actually yelled, but I'm not gonna do it. At the end, for an exit ticket, we had everyone draw Gengar, my favorite Pokemon. I had a Gengar backpack around this time, although it was too small to fit anything, and it's also tearing apart, as you can see. I kind of just keep it for a bunch of random memory stuff now, and I have another backpack, so. Now, I don't have any pictures or physical copies of what anybody drew, but most of them just trace the basic Ken Sugimori Gengar artwork. But to be fair, the few that did it for real did a pretty good job. Some did a bad job on purpose, and it was hilarious. Feel bad for the ones that, you know, did a good job, because one of the ones that did a bad job ended up winning out of my bias. Whoever that was got an awesome card, which is basically just like a free snack pass, if you will. So, the teacher had some food pillows around her room. Whenever people were disruptive or got a question wrong or something like that, I got the donut of shame and put it on their head, which was just like a donut pillow plushie thing. I made a rule that if they did something good, got a question right, were respectful, or whatever the case, that they would get the pretzel of respect, which was, again, just a stuffed animal plushie. I didn't end up giving it to anyone though, and everyone kind of complained about that, and then that's when the teacher brought up this life lesson. It's crazy that I could get a life lesson out of something so stupid like this. I didn't tell anyone what I took as respect. That made me realize a lot about life, and how respect works, and how it's just a terrible system. Now, everyone was on their own Chromebook to, you know, go through the slides, and even answer a few questions on a Google Doc we made. For some reason, we couldn't just put the slideshow on the board, so they all had to follow along on their own Chromebooks. Now we're going to go over all of the questions, which were put on a Google Doc and asked immediately after the Google slideshows were done. There were definitely typos. Which of these biggest reasons why cards have value? Select all that apply. It's everything but D. Which of the Pokemon usually garners the most hype? It's Umbreon and Charizard. What is the most hyped set in recent history? It's Prismatic Evolutions. Everyone was saying Shroud Fable, and I was like, what kind of cards are the most hyped currently? It's Special Illustration version. I was going to put alternate arts in there as well, but it would have been a little bit trippy, and to be fair, they're both pretty hyped in the moment. So what most recently made Pokemon cards blow up in popularity? Pokemon Pocket. Why is Prismatic Evolutions hyped? It's the EV evolutions. Which of the following are factors that contribute to Pokemon's hype? The artwork, yes. The character, no. And pull rates, yes. They kept asking me for help on them, because I guess I didn't do a good job with the presentation, or they just weren't paying attention. Why do you think so many people got the donut of shame? Obviously, I was not the only one to do this project. Here are some honorable mentions. Hygiene 101, one on babysitting, one on video games, I think, and one on autism. What? So the last one, I'm pretty sure, was made for me. Here's the slideshow I whipped up real quick and was going to replace it with, but I got embarrassed, so I didn't. I taught on Pokemon cards though, to be fair. Couldn't have been that much worse. No, yeah, definitely. It definitely could have been. Everyone was going for something more as like just a joke. Never anything super serious, so that's probably a good call on my part. To be fair, I wasn't making the Pokemon one as a joke, but it ended up being funny because of a lot of factors, obviously. I don't remember if I even finished this one. I think it was only like 10 slides long. It's just titled What? By Newt Lund and Jacob Nasso. Although Jacob didn't even know I did this. Disclaimer, I don't care. This isn't going to be funny, but more of too serious. I won't be getting too religious or political, even though I don't care and would. I know none of you care enough to hear, and I would just do it, but it probably isn't allowed. But I'll say the most I can without too much mess. Yes, I'm different for doing my lesson on this, because I'm not the same, and I don't want to be. Let's play a quick game. There are 8 billion people. Random person, first one to show up. Seasonal depression. The world is full of corrupt and manipulation. We worry so much what others will do or think to be free to do what we want. We're worried about morals when the government is going to use emotional manipulation all year round with things like holidays and natural disasters to make you happy or upset. What is Christmas to you? So I guess that was supposed to be like a people answer that. Maybe not in one word, but I would say it's an excuse to be happy in an otherwise depressing season of most of our lives. There are many studies done proving people are usually most happy around summer and spring and depressed in fall and winter. So the government decided that what better way to make people happier in those more depressive times than to give us holidays and reasons to spend money when depressed, taking advantage of us and our emotions to capitalize the most on it that they can. How thoughtful of them. Why? Anyways, thank you for sitting through and listening to this brief life lesson. Why teach on something stupid when I have the power to teach you anything? Regardless how much you want to hear it, life lessons mean much more than any other lesson, and you can find me on that. This concludes our lesson, and I'll grade you all on class participation and speaking out rather than correct answers because that's all I wanted to hear. Yeah, that was very different from what I remember writing. To be fair, I don't even remember really what I wrote. Yeah, I guess I did finish it. It was still just insanely short.